Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to the ultimate recap. You guys have been absorbing an absolute mountain of information on how organizations plan, compete, and, well, survive in really complex environments. But, understanding the theory. That's just step one. Today, we're going to transform all that theory into rock-solid retention. Welcome to our interactive explainer, where we're putting your strategic management knowledge to the ultimate test. So rather than doing a traditional, kind of passive summary, we're going to actively lock in these core concepts of business strategy. How? Well, through a rapid-fire knowledge check based directly on the course material we've been covering. Here's the deal. I'm going to ask a question, give you the options, and I want you to literally commit to an answer in your head before I reveal it and we break down exactly why it's right. Sound good? Let's do it. All right, round one, the essentials of strategic planning. We know strategic planning is this formal process where an organization figures out, or maybe it reevaluates its vision and mission. But here is the question. What exactly does this process map out in order to actually achieve that vision? Think about the absolute fundamental building blocks a company needs to move forward. Okay, here are your options. Does it map out A, goals and objectives, B, profit formulas, C, value chain analysis, or D, ethical frameworks? I'll give you a quick second to lock in your choice. Think about that roadmap from vision to reality. Did you guess A? Because if you did, you were absolutely spot on. The correct answer is goals and objectives. Strategic planning is fundamentally all about setting really specific, measurable objectives that need to be knocked out within a predetermined timeframe. I mean, sure, profit formulas and value chains are crucial tools, but it's the goals and objectives that actually translate this lofty vision into a concrete roadmap for leaders and employees. To really unpack the why behind this, we've got to look at the whole concept of strategic intent. This is not just some casual plan. It's the relentlessly pursued, super ambitious, long-term goal of an organization. When a company has true strategic intent, it focuses the entire weight of its resources on winning. That grand ambition is then broken down into a vision of the future, a mission for its current purpose, and most importantly, those measurable goals and objectives that guide every single employee from where they are today to where they want to be. And setting those goals fits perfectly into the broader cycle of strategic management, because strategy is definitely not a one-and-done deal. It's a continuous four-step process. You've got to understand your current strategy and performance, scan both the internal and external environments, formulate the strategy using those exact goals we just talked about, and then, finally, actually implement it. Okay, so with our goal set, who is actually steering the ship? Let's move into round two, governance and strategic oversight. When it comes down to corporate control, who holds the primary responsibility to hire and fire the CEO? Is it A, the chief executive officer, B, the board of directors, C, operational managers, or D, general shareholders? Keep in mind, while the senior managers are the ones on the ground executing strategy day in and day out, somebody else holds the ultimate keys to leadership and oversight. Lock in your guess. And the correct answer is B, the board of directors. It is the absolute fundamental duty of the board to exercise strong oversight over the company. They are the ones tasked not just with hiring and firing top management, but with setting the entire corporate direction. They evaluate the CEO's strategic leadership skills and critically appraise whether the company's business approaches actually make sense. Think of the board like the most powerful pieces on a chessboard. They act as the ultimate strategic overseers. Good corporate governance means they aren't just there to rubber stamp decisions, right? They actively protect shareholder interests, ensure the financial reporting is accurate, and really promote excellent management execution. But look, corporate control isn't just about power. It is heavily about responsibility. Which brings us to round three, focusing on the moral compass of an organization, ethical decision-making. I want you to fill in the blank for this statement. Ethical decision-making promotes moral norms over economic ones as a set of what? Here are your options. Is it A, protocol, B, rules, C, guidelines, or D, action? Take a quick mental beat to test your memory from the course notes. How exactly do we integrate ethics into really complex business situations? Go ahead and pick one. All right, the correct answer is C, guidelines. Listen, ethical frameworks are not rigid step-by-step rules. Business is just way too complicated for that. Instead, they serve as guidelines. Leaders are constantly facing these crazy dilemmas where they have to weigh economic growth against things like environmental impact, employee well-being, or basic honesty. These guidelines help them weigh those complex variables and promote moral norms when the right path isn't perfectly black and white. So let's see how this builds into a really practical approach that managers can use every single day. To apply these guidelines to unique problems, leaders typically use a 4-step framework. Step 1, identify the moral standards at risk and who is actually going to be impacted. Step 2, consider the decision-making process from multiple angles. Step 3, act, carry out the decision, elevating it if you need to. And Step 4, reflect on the overall effects of that choice so you can learn for the future. It's essentially a continuous loop of ethical refinement. Awesome. Let's jump into round 4, analyzing the environment. For our final challenge, we're shifting our focus from that internal moral compass to the world outside the organization's walls. What procedure methodically examines and analyzes pertinent data to find external opportunities and risks that might impact future decisions? Are we talking about A, internal auditing, B, environmental scanning, C, benchmarking, or D, value chain analysis? Think back to all the various analytical tools we've discussed. Tools for evaluating resources, competitor trends, global shifts. Which one fits this exact description? If you chose B, environmental scanning, you absolutely nailed it. Environmental scanning is this continuous process of monitoring macro trends. We're talking market trends, competitor movements, new technologies, the whole shebang. The goal here is to act incredibly fast, grabbing external opportunities before your competitors even see them and responding to threats before they can cause any real damage. Now, it's super important to contrast this external view with the internal one, because a genuinely successful strategy requires managers to look inward at their own capabilities, stuff like internal structure, corporate culture, and resources, just as much as they look outward at the industry and macroeconomic trends. I mean, think about it. You literally cannot capitalize on a massive external opportunity if your internal resources aren't aligned to actually deliver on it. Just think about the sheer massive complexity a strategist has to constantly monitor just to survive. You've got the broader societal environment, economic, technological, and political factors, and that all feeds directly into the specific task environment, which includes your market analysis, competitors, suppliers, and government regulations. All of this massive amount of data eventually filters down into the selection of your strategic factors, your core opportunities, and your core threats. And with that, our ultimate knowledge check comes to a close. Huge congratulations on working through all those concepts with me. Look, if you take away one overarching theme from this explainer, it really should be this. Strategic management is not some dusty document sitting on a shelf, and it is definitely not a one-time test. It is an ongoing, dynamic, continuous cycle of scanning the horizon, formulating clear objectives, implementing decisions, and constantly adapting to change. To summarize the absolute essence of everything we've reviewed today, I want to leave you with a really powerful quote from strategy expert Michael Porter. He says, "Strategy is about making choices, trade-offs. It's about deliberately choosing to be different." The ultimate goal of all these frameworks we've talked about, from value chain analysis to corporate governance to environmental scanning, is to secure a unique, sustainable competitive advantage. Because honestly, if your strategy can be perfectly copied by a rival, it's just not a good strategy. Which leaves us with one final thought as we wrap up this explainer. You now have the foundational tools, the frameworks, and the core concepts locked in. So the question turns back to you. How are you going to deliberately choose to be different in your own strategic journey? How will you apply these concepts to create real value in a true competitive advantage in your professional life? Keep that question in the back of your mind as you move forward. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and keep learning.